This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It's sponsored every week at this time on Saturday mornings at 8:30 on 107.9 CDY by Independent Bank. Katie Huckle is my co-host in the almost 5 years that we have been doing this show. Mm-hmm. Katie, we have not put the special event that happens in downtown Cadillac the day after Thanksgiving in the spotlight, and we're overdue.
We are so overdue, and we've got the man himself, Dave McMahon, in the studio with us. Thank you for being with us, Dave.
Hey, thank you for the invitation.
And happy holidays also. Here we go, right?
Same to you, you bet.
Does it actually feel like it's the holiday season yet? It hasn't been cold. We haven't hardly seen any snow at all. Right. Did this sneak up on you like it snuck up on us?
Well, I'm a Sirius XM guy that listens to music almost year-round that's got holiday classics going.
Gotcha.
So it's not too early for me.
Gotcha. Okay. So how many years has this been that you've been doing this?
Well, I can remember, it's not been documented, but I remember that in 1986 in January, we were reviewing what the last Christmas in the Park was on the day that the Challenger exploded, because I was in the Chamber of Commerce room and we were reviewing and then looking at what we were going to do next year. So that's 38 years ago.
Yeah.
Incredible. For those that haven't been down to see this, it's magical. It's very special. And I think it makes our community unique in that lots of folks are home for Thanksgiving and then there's a second event to happen. So let's say you're traveling for Thanksgiving to be with family in Cadillac. There's something for you to do the next day that kicks off Christmas.
Yes. And I've had so many people tell me from other communities in and out of the state that this would never happen in their city, and it becomes that hallmark small town kind of feel.
Mm-hmm. For those folks that haven't attended, can you give us this is what it looks like? You know, if you were going to come down with your little kids to the park, tell us what you can expect.
Sure. Just a little quick bit of history. I mean, we started on Main Street where they grafted a hole in the sidewalk, and they used to put the Christmas tree right on the corner of Chapin Street and Main Street there. But we've moved a few times, but now in the splash pad area, at about 5:30 we begin, and we have all kinds of Christmas music going on. They've been kind enough. They invited me again. I'm 40 years ago to be the MC of this thing, and it transferred into the hands of First Baptist of Cadillac once that money just didn't seem to be available for the Downtown Development Committee, and they were going to stop it, but they said, hey, if the church would be willing to take it over, we could see this going on. And we said we'd gladly be able to do that. And they've been very gracious to me in all the past years of being able to pray for the community briefly. But we share music. We blow the trumpet if it's not below frigid and you can't keep in tune with the accompaniment track. But we sing Christmas carols. Kids come out. We do a little Simon Says. People gather, and we have handed out Christmas carol booklets so that people can have some words to be able to do that. But then Santa shows up, and Mrs. Claus, and comes on stage, and he throws the magical switch that lights the main Christmas tree, and then all the lights that are on the lakefront. And we welcome Santa and Mrs. Claus, and they take their seat, and then we have children that are able to come up on the makeshift stage and sit with Santa and have a picture taken with their family phones, whatever. And every child gets a bag of candy. Had the opportunity to just to welcome the Christmas season, and so we sing together, and the community gathers.
That's awesome. He's so humble because he says, and the trumpet comes out. We talk about when the trumpet comes out, this man is a very, very gifted musician. And it is such a joy when you watch Dave McMahon play the trumpet, because it's like an extension of his body. It's like breathing. It's like breathing to him.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of you. I appreciate that.
That's the truth. And again, your faith community, your church, really has been part of the community for so long. And I just love it because you're not like, well, we're taking credit for the fact that this hasn't died out. It's just one of those, it was time for a handoff when we were ready to take it. And I know that that is directly related to your leadership. And so I think a big thank you from Cadillac for keeping it going.
Well, thank you. Well, we've always believed that the church ought to be able to prove its tax-exempt status. There ought to be a reason why we get tax exemption, and 600 backpacks a week go out to children in all the elementary schools in Mesick and in Manton, at the ISD, at the Head Start Readiness Program, the YMCA, Innovation High, here at the CTC. We also mentor students in all the elementary schools, and that's just not our church. That's other churches. We started with Franklin, and the backpack program began when Mrs. Hicks, the then principal there, said children, they just can't function. They haven't eaten since the government provided lunch on Friday and the government provided breakfast on Monday. And we said, there's got to be something that we can do with that. And so we look for ways in which we can be involved in the community and make a difference. And if the church ever folds, the church should be recognized that it's not there anymore. And we believe that of every church. We ought to prove why we're in the community and not do it for self-aggrandizement, but for the fact that there's a need there and we should be doing something.
And it is interesting because a lot of churches have certain ministries. There is a concentration. This church does there's the church that does the equipment for the handicapped.
Yeah.
And there's a church that concentrates on homelessness,
sure,
which is First Presbyterian, and the churches fill niches and fill holes, and when the collective comes together, a lot of the issues are not necessarily eradicated, but helped.
Sure. Well, we have a food pantry. Several other churches do as well. Zion Lutheran has taken on a underwear and sock pantry. I call it Martin Luther Secrets that are up there on Zion, and they do that. Christian Reformed Church has done with other kind of paper products that people have needs of. I know that the other church in town has, I can't remember their name. I've apologize, but they have taken in people's canes and other kinds of things that they lend them out for people who are in need and can't afford to purchase those kinds of products because they've fallen into health issues that. But anyway, there's a lot of things that are around there. Love in the Name of Christ is a huge piece that coordinates all of that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, because I want to know, I'm inquiring minds, what's your favorite Christmas carol?
My favorite Christmas carol. Wow, that is a toughie. I mean, the one that quickly comes to mind, the one that I'm working on right now with some orchestral accompaniment, is Joy to the World.
Okay.
And you can really sing that at any time of year. We do that when I was pastoring the church. We'd sing that at times in the summertime because the words of that is the fact that Christ has come. God's given his son for us, and that's just not a Christmas piece.
Right.
That could be at any point in time.
Right.
And is this the one you're working on for the Sunday performance at the high school?
No, we've got that is one of the four that the Cadillac area, we call them the area brass, the brass that comes from the Cadillac Area Symphony, is doing four numbers prior to their concert on Sunday. We're also going to do that at the Amen Chorus, which is having a special 2 concerts on a Saturday and Sunday night in subsequent week. And also the Presbyterian Church has a Christmas program on the 15th of December that we're going to play there as well. So we're just getting some use. We've not done that before, but Camp Kirkland has put out some really fine arrangements of carols for brass, and we're having a chance to utilize those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if I was a grandma and a grandpa and I was listening to the show, what would you tell grandma and grandpa about getting the grandkids to the Christmas tree lighting?
I'd say, hey, you've eaten a lot of turkey the day before, you've watched football, you've gotten out to the Black Friday deals to get the stink blown off. just go a little further and come down at 5:30, and your grandchildren will be enthralled with what's there. How often do you get to sit with Santa, and do you have the opportunity to take a picture with him, get a bag of candy, and just look around and see an entire community that's there? And the drone show is coming back, which is pretty fabulous. We had 1,000 to 1,500 people that came out last year.
That is a tremendous number for a first year.
And I had to go all the way around the lake to get back home to Tustin because the traffic was so horrendous. But don't let that stop you. Ally Coffee will be there. Primo's Barbecue will be there. The Salvation Army comes out, and they give free hot chocolate to anybody that's there. So no matter what the weather is, come on down, and it's a way we say we kick off the holiday season post-Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any certain ceremonies that stand out in memory? Because at that time of year, it could be 15 degrees, it could be 65 degrees. Do you have one that particularly pops? It could be snowing, it could be raining, it could be windy, it could be sunny. Anything. Well, probably not at 5:30. We're beyond sunlight at that point. But are there any that stand out in your memory?
Well, we were down at the Rotary Pavilion for a number of years. We had a live nativity there where we had a family that had a farm, and that hobby farm, and they had in all the animals that were there. We had a horse-drawn carriage, but it was like, sub-zero weather. And so we'd set up tents, and we had those portable heaters that were there, and we had some walking tacos that were going out. And then one year also, the Chamber of Commerce provided a Christmas book. They did that a couple of years for every child that was there, and they selected a book that was specifically geared towards children and gave away some fabulous reading material that was something special, too, on some of those given years.
Well, and Santa can come in different ways too. So, what's your favorite way that Santa has arrived?
One year when we were at the Rotary Pavilion and the weather permitted because it was unseasonably warm, Santa came across the lake on a Four Winds boat.
I remember that.
Okay, now we're talking Cadillac talk, aren't we? We pulled Four Winds into this. I love it.
And now Clam Lake, who's been very good to us, have allowed Santa and Mrs. Claus. There's a huge picture window in the backside of Clam Lake restaurant, and it looks out over the lake and looks out over the splash pad. And all of a sudden, you'll start hearing some cheers and some gasps because Santa and Mrs. Claus are up there, and they're waving at all the children and the people. And so the anticipation of them, they're very close. And so that's kind of fun, too.
Right. So we all have memories of growing up in the church and Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, whatever service you went to. And, of course, you were running all of them. But can you talk to us about specifically your congregation, the Flock, and what you do to celebrate the holidays? There might be some folks out there, and I worked for a man for years that called these people cheesters. They're only going to go to church on Christmas and Easter. So if there's someone out there thinking, you know what, I'm a believer, I want to get my family to church for Christmas, what would you tell them would happen at your First Baptist?
Well, I would say, we don't look down on some people call them C&E Christians. They're Christian and Easter, but we don't look down on folks like that. If there's an opportunity for you to come, and for us, we have a Carols and Communion service and still do on Christmas Eve, and so many people have pushed their Christmas celebrations at different times on Christmas Eve because college students are back. There may be people that come back to town, and so to be able to come together for a Christmas service where you've got every person has a real candle. Don't tell the fire marshal, but we have a candle, and many churches do that. And I think the fun piece is that we have the opportunity to come together to sing the carols. I always enjoyed sitting on a stage with a riser type of choir situation where all the children came up and gathered around, and we read the Christmas story and talked a little bit about that. I remember a pastor telling me that Christmas Eve was always favorite for him because the parsonage for his specific church was right next door to the church, and his children would always, because the pastor's always the last one that leaves the church, some lady forgets her purse and's got to wait until they lock the door, but when they saw him walk down the sidewalk, cut across to the parsonage, and he came into view in their picture window, they knew that Christmas was starting, and they were going to be able to open one present up on Christmas Eve because the Christmas Eve service was over and he was coming coming home. And that's always been a cool remembrance to me.
We forget about our pastors, our clergy, and the sacrifice that their families make too, right?
Well, my beloved mother-in-law, who has a strict regimen in which she follows the holidays, and for her Christmas, family needs to be there at 10 o'clock on Christmas Day, and she lives down in Findlay, Ohio. And so for us, it was always packing up the kids in the parakeet and getting into the, getting into the car and driving through the night until 2 o'clock in the morning, where we finally get to Grandma's house and we have a couple of hours of sleep so we can be there, because Grandma, it's got to be at that certain time. So, but those were good memories as well. As kids were able to, put on their pajamas and they get to Grandma's house, they go strictly to sleep. We get few hours, but we're there for the popcorn balls and for opening the presents with all the other cousins that were there from New Jersey and other parts of Ohio.
Yeah, the traditions that we hear. I went to college with a girl, I believe they were Lutheran, and they would, at Christmas dinner, they would sit around and dessert would be a pudding, like a figgy pudding or a plum pudding or something Christmassy like that. And in there would be a baby Jesus. There would be a statue, a rubber, whatever, and whoever had the baby Jesus in their pudding, and obviously the cook, the grandma, knew who had it, and she would swap this out, So you had to stand up in front of this great big family and sing Joy to the World by yourself. And so we're all sitting around talking about, stockings, and can you open up a gift the night before, and what Christmas dinner was, and what carols did your family sing?
Sure.
And Jenny tells that story, the whole room just went silent. Like, are you serious? And they still do it to this day.
Well, you might want to trade your pudding if you had any knowledge about where that was.
Right.
Sibling.
If you didn't want, if you didn't want to sing.
So my favorite memories were of my cousins. I grew up in Alpena, and kind of a small family because, I was an only, my dad was an only, and my mom was one of only two.
Oh, my.
So it was a pretty small gathering. But I remember my cousin, it was the first time I ever was privy to someone who mixed their mashed potatoes with their corn.
Oh boy.
No bueno for me.
No bueno.
No.
These are two very separate things.
No, I was like, why are you doing that? Everything has its own place on the plate.
Well, Alpena.
I'm horrified by it too. I've seen people do that.
Okay, I mean, nothing against you if you love mixing your corn up with your mashed potatoes, but not my thing.
Alpena, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from there, right?
There's. I have had many conversations because obviously Cadillac is in the same conference with Alpena in many sports, and that is a drive that they don't necessarily look forward to,
right?
And that I have made many times over the years.
Right.
You can't get there from here.
Oh no. And you're right. And there are a lot of business people who wanted to follow their kids in sports, and they were like, "Are you kidding me? Are we going to be on the road for 6 hours?" One funny Christmas dinner story. So I'm Norwegian, and so we had lutefisk every year, and it was the only time of the year that we had it, and everyone called it fish jello.
Oh my!
But it's expensive to buy now, and in Norway it's kind of a poor man's fish,
Sure.
But to get it processed, it's soaked in lye and all these things, and so in Whispers, we called it the no thank you portion. But my
like a haggis.
Yeah, my beloved father, he would watch this big dining room table, and if you didn't take any, that was disrespectful. So everybody knew they were going to have a no thank you portion, and I would always, in front of my twin sisters, really pile it on. This is so delicious. I can't wait to have another.
Well, where's the dog under the table is what I want to know.
Exactly, but I mean, I didn't mind it, but I had to kind of just, as the oldest, kind of just rub it in because I knew my dad was watching.
Well, we've skipped Thanksgiving, so we have to have this conversation about favorite side dishes, right?
Oh, we do. Okay. Well, I know yours, but you got to tell Dave.
All right. So mine is green bean casserole. That's my favorite.
Classic.
And I don't know what's yours.
Oyster stuffing.
Molly.
I love oyster stuffing.
Is that a family recipe?
That's yeah, I think that's my mother-in-law's recipe. It is my mother-in-law's recipe because that may be even duplicated on Christmas.
Okay.
So I have a question about it. Maybe you don't know if you don't prepare it, but is she using fresh oysters?
Yes.
Is she
Yep.
really?
We go to wherever we got to go to find the fresh oysters. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, if you ever think about it, I would like just a little teeny tiny taste of that because that's like my
You can
favorite.
make a house call. We'll make a special portion for you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I kind of swapped this out because I do like 13 side dishes. I mean, I love Thanksgiving dinner because the leftovers
Just
are
as good.
Just as good. Yes, that is so. But also, nothing about it is so difficult. It's just time consuming. It's a lot of ingredients, and it's a lot of work. Let's say that's fair, and it's a lot of different dishes and things going into multiple ovens, whatever it is. But it isn't hard. It isn't a Chateaubriand or something that is difficult, complex and difficult.
Common stuff, but I always marveled at my wife Karen, who's able to. The thing is the coordination of getting it all out at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the tough piece.
Anytime you're cooking, and I am the designated cook in my family. My wife hates to cook.
Really?
And yes, it is. I make it my mission to make sure that everything is done within 5 to 10 minutes of each other. And
This is
if
news
it does,
to me.
if it does, I feel I have accomplished something major.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have a girlfriend who is a business owner in the area who shall remain unnamed. And we were sitting around talking about the leftovers. Mine is Minnesota wild rice. I love Minnesota wild rice. It's expensive. I have it shipped in. I make it once or twice a year. You know, again, as you say, Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Can you define Minnesota wild rice for me?
Yeah,
What is it?
It's a long grain. It isn't even really a rice. It's a grain.
Okay.
And it was picked on the water by Native Americans back in the day. Now it's commercially harvested.
Gotcha.
But it's very special because you have to bake it or boil it or whatever you're going to do for I'm talking hours. To get it to, I wouldn't say pop, but almost like popcorn, or it needs to absorb moisture for it to become not rock hard. So a lot of people,
So it's not minute rice; it's a half a day rice.
Oh yeah, yeah. But so anyway, we were talking about leftovers, and my one of my very best friends said, "Well, you know who this businesswoman? She came up with something, and I find it hard to believe. I don't know if I could eat it." And I was like, what is it?" And she said she takes all of her leftovers and dumps them into a pot with some chicken broth, and it's called, Thanksgiving soup.
Soup, yeah.
And I'm like, even the cranberries? No, not the cranberries. But yeah, at my house, you have to have two kinds of cranberries. You have to have your real cranberries, and then you have to have the jelly one.
The canned stuff.
The canned stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know that you were the cook last year, Dave. He was going to be alone for Thanksgiving. I'm horrified by this.
Why?
Because I thought I was worried about it, okay? And so I said, you're welcome to join us. What can I do? Let me make you something. And I said, anything. Yeah. And he picked green bean casserole. I was like, how did I get off the hook? This is the worst. I probably have the ingredients in my trunk, But
I did
back of most cans.
But he had a request.
I did request a dollop of soy sauce.
I had soy sauce in it, which, okay, fine. But, I think I had a dessert for you, too.
You did. And to tell Dave the story. So, okay, I'm an only child. I spent lots of time alone in my childhood, and I had some friends, but when I had my friends over about an hour or two, I'd had enough of them. Okay, go home. I'm ready to be on my own. So somehow I went from an only child to 4 children. Okay, I have 4 kids.
I know you do.
And when Julie decides she's going to take them down to Grandma's house downstate, I'm like, have fun. It's okay. I'm going to be alone for a couple of days.
Yes.
I can turn on the football game. And now, this year, unlike many years, the Lions would spoil Thanksgiving. Now, the Lions are amazingly good, right?
Yeah.
We just don't have the 4-6 turkey legs that they used to have to give away to the
John Madden.
John
right?
Madden turkey, yes.
Well, I mean, because we have a community pillar with us, I'll tell you what another community pillar told Rich and I a couple of years ago. It was Chef Herman, and we had him in the studio to talk about I think it was prepping Thanksgiving dinner and what he serves and all this, because he does an elaborate meal. And as you know, he's a devout Catholic.
Yes.
And I did not tee this up. I was just simply talking to him about how the day went at his house. And he, and I quote you, said, "If you don't want to listen to my prayer, you take a bathroom break." And I just thought, exactly. I mean, are you kidding me? It's called Thanksgiving for a reason, everybody.
That's right. That's right. I've always been enthralled by these food shows that every once in a while you'll see these famous sandwich makers or whatever, and they'll have the Thanksgiving sandwich where they have the layer of turkey, the layer of dressing, the layer of cranberry, whatever, between some sourdough or something. And I thought, man, that really looks good.
Mm-hmm. It does. I did this last year, and this year I'm making one for Greg Bach from the Salvation Army, who you know, because he's got the whole free Thanksgiving dinner that he's running.
Give it to him when he's in the kettle. He'd probably appreciate a hot meal.
And I'm sure he'll get into that here before too long.
Well, exactly. And one for Rich's family. And what it is it's a pumpkin cheesecake. So the pumpkin swirling through, real pumpkin in there with your cloves and your nutmeg and your cinnamon. And then it's got a caramel topping over the top. So
get thee behind me, Satan, and don't do no pushing is what I would say to that. Holy smokes.
And then the crust.
To die for.
The crust, just to gild the lily a little bit, is toasted pecans and butter-soaked graham crackers. And I will tell you, you have to cook with salted butter at Thanksgiving, period.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Of
course. As you can tell, there are the Gary Chapman 5 love languages. There is a 6th love language in Katie Huckle, and that is baking.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah. I know. A dear beloved woman to Cadillac passed recently, Jenny Mackey, and the privilege of baking the desserts for the family for the reception and stuff after the service at St. Anne's is a privilege for me. And so I mean, all the different things that I can do, and all it's just been really fun to bake for that family and to celebrate Jenny in that way. And a fun Jenny Mackey story. As you know, her father, Harvey Pell, bequeathed the hospital $12 million, which I believe is now over $14 million.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harvey. And it was Christmas a couple of years ago, and family out of town, and I got a phone call, "Can you stop in Christmas Eve? I don't want her to be alone." One of those phone calls. And I think this time, but I had a cake, and I was going to, deliver this cake to the nursing home. And of course, some of the residents started to swarm. There's kind of a lady that's not around much, and she's all dressed up, and she's got this fancy cake, and she's got it all ready to go. And Jenny looked at everybody and said, "Nobody's having any cake until after dinner." And that's that. She was a probation and parole officer for so many years that, you know what I mean? And basically what she was saying is, "Okay, everybody, easy. We're not cutting into the cake till after dinner."
I always think it's a sad thing that, some of the best desserts of the year come out after the big meals. Thanksgiving and true. Christmas. And it's like, gosh, and, in my family, we've got a lot of dessert eaters. And I want a thin slice of that, then give me a thin slice of that so that you can have multiple tastes.
Right.
But you got all the good food, and do I really back off so that I can do dessert? It's like that whole dessert should be at a different time.
You are so right, because for this celebration of life reception, lemon bars I made. And lemon bars are 12 tablespoons of butter. They're 8 farm fresh eggs. I mean, they're a journey. Okay, they're not chocolate chip cookies. They take a little bit of work here. And anyway, so my boyfriend had one. He's my tester. Try this, and he said, "Wow, I'm like a no-bake guy, but these are a treat because you don't get lemon bars in November.
No,
you don't."
No.
And it's to your point, Dave.
Sure.
Like, think about all the other fun little Christmas cookies. And,
man, yeah.
Another Herman story, I love to make cornflake wreaths. I realize, they're not a mastermind cookie that you're going to see on the English Baking Channel. And I had Herman over one time to my cookie party, and he told me that they were a child's cookie simply bound together by breakfast cereal bound together by marshmallows, add food coloring. This is not a cookie. This is not a cookie at all.
Well, if you ever need any quality control, I'll make the drive.
Well, it was cute because Bob Shaspa, who owns Quadrant Northwest, is a friend, and he and I've done business together for years. And I told him the story. I was delivering cookies to his office for Christmas, and I said, "Boy, I hope you enjoy these cornflake wreaths, because let me tell you a story." And in my thank you note, it said, because it was a platter. I mean, I bet there were 10 different cookies on that platter. And he said, "I want you to know my favorite was the cornflake wreath." And that, he's a sweetie. That was his way of saying, "I got you, Katie."
Sure.
We've got a few minutes left,
yeah.
Dave. So what is, we got on food somehow.
Sorry.
What is your favorite thing about getting this ceremony, this post-Thanksgiving tree lighting together? Your favorite thing about organizing it?
Well, I just think that my son Jonathan does a tremendous amount of the preparatory work. You've got to get okay from the city, and they've been great to reserve the space for us. And Ken Payne comes out with all those city workers, and they help bring in a portable flatbed so that Santa can have a little height, so that people got an opportunity to see him. And Al Dumont had done that for years before he retired. But it's just to see that the community comes out together. And it's not a religious event, but yet it is. There's some quasi tastes of that, and I love the privilege of being able to, for those who will, if not, keep talking. I like to pray for the community and for the blessing of the community. One of the years you talk about, what are some of the big years you can think of? The White House Christmas tree came by during the celebration of Christmas in the park, and it stopped, and it had a pause, and people had a chance to touch the White House Christmas tree. But just the fact that people can come out, it is and I would say, especially after this season of rankle that we've had in terms of a national election, the opportunity for the community to come together and to say, here's something we can gather around. And it's not just the feel good of Christmas, but for those of us who believe in Christ, it's the purpose of seeing him in a new form and in a renewed form of this one who came to bring peace, also a sword, but to bring peace. And we're awaiting his return and the opportunity to lift that up in front of the community, and for the people to have received that well. We don't have people that are rankled out there because we're praying or we're singing songs, and we sing. I do the Grinch, and there are several other songs that we do that are not all just Christmas carols. We want to make it fun for the kids, and it's a blessing just to see the community come together.
Stink, stank, stunk wasn't in the Bible.
I'm the Grinch.
He even has the right look on his face.
Absolutely.
You should be doing theater too, in addition to all the other things you do. Dave, in terms of what the community can be doing to support you mentioned that at one point funds dried up with the city, one of the city committees there, and so then your church, First Baptist, took it over. Do you need money? Should people be donating money to help with this?
No, I really would say not. The church has been very good about that. Also, Evergreen has been huge to us that they have provided 2 nights for Santa and Mrs. Claus at no cost to us to be able to come in, because Santa and Mrs. Claus, they traveled a great distance to be with us. But we provided for candy, for the other kinds of pieces and things, and so it's a low cost event. The heavy piece has been the introduction of the light show and the drone show. Sure. And again, Bethany Miller has worked very hard with several others to try to make that happen. Didn't think it was going to happen this year. And again, the providers were very kind in honoring Judy of last year, but we've somehow through Bethany have come up with enough funds to be able to do it again. And again, that's been a unique addition.
Yeah, he just keeps on giving everybody, Pastor Dave McMahon.
5:30, day after Thanksgiving.
Day after, and we will not leave until the last child gets a bag of candy. So usually about 6:45.
Get there early.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate
God bless you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Cadillac Unscripted, sponsored by Independent Bank on 107.9 CDY. Next week, more local chat here. Join us.